Hello, I'm Jim Banning, author of Patriotism, Unhinged, which is available worldwide through online retailers. Welcome back. We got another really great one for you today. I'm going to talk about something that's a little different because in some ways I didn't know any of this until I was told it. But it came to me that I needed to explain why sometimes you're all over the board. Sometimes you're moving around the investigation in such a way that you find out about something else which is also a very large item. And there's always the first thing you think about is, do I want to go down that hole? Because people will start thinking, maybe I need some help. However, in a situation like this, there's no way to avoid it. No way to avoid it. We're going to talk about, Jim Fowles is going to talk about his relationship with moving drugs out of South America and Central America with Barry Seal. And as he was explaining it, it was just fascinating to me. Fascinating that these people were involved in this thing. And it was prior, of course, to their national involvement in politics. And I wasn't even aware that there was a movie made about this, Mena, Arkansas. And it turns out, and I'm going to let Jim tell you the story because you can tell by the way he's telling the story that he was right there. You were close and in Operation 40 with Barry Seal.
Right.
And you and him did a lot of work together, moving drugs, yeah, materials.
Cocaine, marijuana.
Yeah. And the story is that you took a lot of them to Mena, Arkansas.
Mena.
Yeah. And
Mena was the drug drop capital of the world.
Okay. And can you tell us anything you know about the connection with the people there?
Well, we flew drugs in from South America and from Central America. We had the drug bases and we had the fueling stations. And we'd load up, let's say, in South America. We would fly into Central America and we'd stop for fuel, fill up with fuel there, and we can go on with that. Right. That's what got Barry killed in the end, because Barry made pictures of all the fueling stops and the drug bases and the cocaine places and the marijuana places. And they made a movie called Made in America.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be, the movie was called Mena in the beginning, but Mena got onto them about it and they didn't want their name used in it.
Yeah.
Like that, so.
I see.
They changed the name up to Made in America with Tom Cruise.
Did any of those, were any of those directed to the Clintons in any way?
A lot of it, yes. Clintons, they ran Mena, Arkansas. But
this was before he was even on the radar of being a president. Yeah.
Right.
And both of the Clintons, I understand, were involved in it.
Both of them, yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that happened, a lot of people, I think, aren't aware of it. A large number of state troopers died strangely. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe after he was president.
Yeah. They tried to clean up a lot of things. Like that was one of the details they tried to clean up. And it was Hillary. I blame the agency for hiring a couple amateur cops to come and try and take me down. Uh-huh. And the whole case is in the back of the book, Primary Target, where I went to trial on it and everything else. Uh-huh. And I got to prison. I sit down, I wrote the agency a letter, and I told them, I said, I'm very disappointed. I said, I thought I was worth a hell of a lot more than $50,000 on a contract. It should have been at least a minimum of $250,000. But they didn't, it wasn't them. And I found out later it was Hillary that issued the contract on me and hired two cops. One was David Ostertag. He was detective, and then Gary Bittner. David Ostertag quit after he got shot. He took a round right next to the heart. And it came out of his right buttock, and he put that letter on the internet himself. And Gary Bittner crawled up under the car. He made police chief later, and he was screaming, "They're going to kill us! They're going to kill us!" And
do you know who took care of them?
We made what's his name, Ostertag. He went to work for some credit card company as an investigator. Gary Bittner made police chief from Round Lake Beach, Illinois.
Oh.
But they didn't earn their $50,000. They tried, but they didn't.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to shoot out, let's put it that way. And the thing was, I lost the war. I went to prison.
I understand.
So I found out later there was Hillary that heard the cops to kill me.
Right.
Because Bill was running for president at that time.
Uh-huh.
And so Hillary, I was one of the last people that could actually put Hillary on the runway with a plane load of drugs. See, sometimes Barry and me flew together. Sometimes we flew separate. He flew his plane, I flew another plane.
Uh-huh.
And I landed that one day, and I was used to getting out of the plane and walking over to the limo, getting in the limo, and going and having lunch with the guys.
That's right.
And then they'd unload the plane, they'd do whatever they had to do, and they'd get it ready, and I'd come back, I'd fly it out to Flagstaff, Arizona, to Greenway Airlines. So.
You mentioned your book was in the book. Do we have that book?
Yes, right here.
Yeah. Would you hold that up for us so we can see that? Now, you people that want to go deep on this and get on the right page, you need to get this book. This is from Jim and Pam. Put this book together. It took them a while, and it's very accurate. And this will help bring history up to speed. Thanks, Jim.
Okay. And the back of the book is me standing by Charles Nicoletti's grave, where he was buried at, because I went out to the Mount Carmel Cemetery to see him there.
Why don't you tell the people how you almost died protecting that journal?
Well, and you got the copy of that book, the spiral copy, the binder. Let me see that one.
Yeah.
This book here was got the complete manuscript, the Confession of Assassin, and it's also got the notes from the government when they checked me out and they referred it and everything else. And the bottom of page 50, there's a small note at the bottom of the page that tells about where the FBI tortured me, and they admitted they did not break me to speak of any crime that I had been involved in, because they wanted the ledger, because there's over 60 murders in that ledger that belonged to Charles Nicoletti and me. And Charles Nicoletti worked at first with Phil Alvarez and a couple other people, and finally I was driving for him as I was his driver. Chuck found out I could shoot pretty good, and so he asked me, did some of the hits for Chuck, because he was getting a little bit too old to be running back and forth to the car, and I could move a lot faster than he could at that time.
Sure. But they kept you for 2 days, did they, and beat you?
Yeah.
They thought you were dead when they threw you out.
Yeah, they thought I was dead, and I knew it had to be the FBI that had me, because the agency itself would have made sure I was dead, the mob would have made sure I was dead.
That's right.
Only the FBI would screw up like that.
Yeah.
And I was black and blue from the top of my head to the tip of my toes. I couldn't identify the FBI agents because they had a hood over my face, over my head. And they had me chained and tied up in a basement somewhere. And I did a lot of yelling and screaming and messed all over myself and everything else, but they never broke me.
Mm-hmm.
So when they threw me out, I was stripped naked. My hands were still taped behind my back with duct tape. My legs were taped together. And they put me in the garbage dump, and an elderly couple, they come out the dump that morning, and they found me. And they went and they called the Elmhurst police, and they told them, they said, you got his body out there in the garbage dump. Mm-hmm. And so they come out there and got me and found I had just a speck of life left in me, so they took me to the hospital. And so I was a couple of days there at the hospital, and they finally got me to and got me where I could sit and talk, but I couldn't say it because I couldn't even talk because my throat was so sore. And so I wrote a note and I had them call my ex-wife at that time, and she called my lieutenant up, the outfit, and he come and got me, and he carried me out of the hospital. They didn't even want him to take me out, and they told him no. And he said, no. He said, I'm taking he's my boss, and I'm taking him home. And he picked me up, and he carried me out to the car, and he set me in the car and took me home. Mm-hmm. And he sit in my house for the following week. There's a Remington Model 870 shotgun that said law enforcement only on it. He sit there because he was determined that nobody was going to get to me.
Right.
And we had a couple of work cars on each end of the block, and I had one in the driveway. Mm-hmm. So I had probably 70 people, and the Broadview police came by. They stopped and knocked on the door. They come in. They said, we know you got plenty of cover outside. They said, but if we can be of any help, they said, we'll send a couple of cars over to sit with you. I said, no, I'm okay. I got my own people. I wrote them a note. And a week later, I was able to start talking. It took me a week to get my voice back.
Yeah. There's no question you're a tough guy. There's no question of that.
I knew Hillary when she was a high school girl, and she was a cheerleader, and she lived in Park Ridge, and her family lived next door to this other family, which this family over here, I used to take an envelope to every Saturday morning, filled with money. And so she's out in the yard, she see me, and I went over there one day on the motorcycle. She wanted to go for a motorcycle ride, and I wouldn't take her until her parents okayed it. And I was older than her anyway, than Hillary was. And I took Hillary out on the motorcycle for a couple of rides because her parents said, yeah, it's okay. Because the guy next door to him, Jerry, he's a good guy. He said, he's one of our people. He said, he's okay. He said, he won't bother your daughter. Because you don't bother anybody, neighbor, daughter, or anybody else, or their son, or anybody, as long as they're friends of the outfit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You stay away from them. I took her out. I got a 58 Ford. You remember the 58 Fords, retractable hardtops?
Yeah.
Convertibles. I got one of those. I took her out on that, and we went out and we had dinner. And I would never touch her, do anything, because you don't disgrace the family. Yeah. That's a no-no. So anyway, then I didn't see her for a long time, and I was gone to Vietnam and all these other places I was at and things I was doing. I wound up being turned over from the military to the CIA as a mercenary. And so when I got back home, I did work for the mob. And like the only one that knew was like Charles Nicoletti, Sam Giancana, and Tony Accardo. They knew that I worked for the CIA. When the CIA called me and I had to go on assignment and do this or do that, I went. And somebody had done my operations until I got back. And that's how it was. And it stayed that way all my life. And even when I was doing the federal bid for the cars and stuff that was going to Mexico, and I was taken down to Texas to down there, forth, but I was in the federal prison at that time when the cars. I stayed on the CIA roll payroll. Mm-hmm. And when the fat lady got shut down, the airplane in Honduras, if you remember that, or Nicaragua, one of the others. And not Barry Sills, but trying to think of this guy's name. Was it the kid from Wisconsin? The guy from Wisconsin.
Eugene Heffenoff.
Yeah, Eugene Heffenoff. When they shut it down, he wasn't supposed to have a parachute aboard the airplane. Sawyer and Cook, the two pilots, the pilot and co-pilot, they were killed in the crash. Eugene dived out. He was what they call a kicker on the airplane. He would just kick the off the back of the ramp, the C-130s.
Yeah.
And he had a parachute. He got it from Homestead, Florida, from his brother-in-law, and he had it on there. So he got taken prisoner. And when they come to see me and console me, because that was my old theater of operations, they asked me about Eugene. I told him, I said, Eugene will break. I said, he's not going to stand up, that he'll talk. He'll give everybody up. He'll blow the whole operation, which he did. I told him, I said, you got two choices and do it fast. I said, either go down there and assassinate him while they take him out of the spider hole, they take him for interrogation. You assassinate the motherfucker right there. I said, otherwise, you go down there and you break him out of prison, you keep him alive, and you bring him back home. I said, but he ain't worth saving. I said, shoot him. They didn't either one. So Eugene gave everything up on the operation, and the fat lady. And the reason the airplane got shut down was, you see, part of it was made in supposed to be the movie Mina, and they changed the name to Made in America, where Barry was flying and making pictures of all the drug bases and the fuel stops. But that was all true. But what it was, the DEA come and got the plane from the CIA, and they put the cameras in the wings and this and that and everything. And so they made out Barry Seal to be the largest drug dealer in the world. Well, when we went to trial and everybody got blown and Barry's name got put out on the front page in newspapers. Mm-hmm. When the rebels, when they seen the fat lady flying over the airplane that made the pictures, they shut it down. Mm-hmm. So Sergeant Cook was killed, and Eugene was taken prisoner, and the rest of it is history. The rest of it was out in court. Barry Seals got killed because of that. And he didn't go to prison. Barry Seals escaped prison for what he did for the DEA, but the one judge sentenced him to the halfway house, and they told the judge, "You're giving this man a death sentence if you get in there." The word is, and I don't know if it's true or not, but George Bush is the one that ordered his execution. Oliver North's another story. But they killed Barry Seals that night. That was all over that fat lady. And Eugene Havenpuss is the one to blame for everything that went wrong.
It seemed like George Bush, there's no end to the stories about him. I mean, he just...
First, I want to go back to Mena, Arkansas again, with Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Well, Hillary Clinton's there. I was used to getting out of the car and going for lunch with the guys in the limo. Opened the door one day, and there's Hillary. She's sitting in the limo. And I asked her, "So what the hell you want me to do? You want Bill to kill me, or you want me to kill Bill?" And I'm looking at the state trooper in the front seat. He's the captain. She said, "Oh, don't worry about him." She says, "I own him." She said, "Let's go have lunch." So we had lunch together while they unloaded the airplane, and getting ready for me to refueling it and me to fly on to Flagstaff, Arizona, to Evergreen. So we talked, and I asked her, "What's going on?" She said, "I've been keeping track of your career." She said, "You've been pretty active in a lot of different things." And I said, "Yeah, a little bit." And I didn't know how much she knew or anything else. So anyway, we talked for a while, and then they took me back there, and I got in the airplane, and she took off in the limo and that. But the reason she put the contract on me, I was the last person alive, probably, they could put her on the runway with a plane loaded drugs.
Oh, wow.
And she offered these coppers $50,000 to kill me, which that case is in the book, where we had the shootout. And then Pamela called up David Ostertag and said that, "I understand you had a contract with Jimmy." She said, "We're writing a book." She told him that. And he said he'd like to have his story told. And so he recorded his name, the date, and everything. And so Pamela says, "Jimmy said you had a contract on him for $50,000. He didn't say yes or no. He just laughed. But a few lines later, he told her, he says, "I'm pretty upset with the government." She says, "Why?" She says, "They didn't tell me who I was up against." But those two cops, they didn't have a chance. So when I got out of this prison this last time for the shootout with the cops, Stateville, was off me and Nick Keller, a friend of mine. He was a friend of the mob, associate of the mob. And he did a lot of bookkeeping, bookmaking for him.
Yeah.
And so one of the other guys there was with us. He was a politician in Chicago, and he goes to go to the White House every week. So we was all talking, and Nick said, "Hey," he says, "next time you go to the White House," he says, "tell Hillary that Jimmy Sutton said hello." And he said, "Okay." So he told her that. So when he got back the following week, they asked him about it. We're all having breakfast together. He said, "Yeah, I told Hillary." He said, "She just looked at me, said she lost all her color. She turned white. She stormed out of the room."
You're going to have to think about this for a while, but there's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of evidence of this, and it's hard to believe in some ways. But when you work for an agency like that, and you're doing things like he did, it's just like you're living in a dream. It's amazing. As everyday people, it's hard for us to imagine that things like this go on. We're all tied up with our families and our jobs and getting through life. And it's hard to believe that people do these kinds of things and then achieve the kind of notoriety and rise up to run a country. We've got the Clintons, we've got the Bushes. Both of them are very close to each other, and you'll hear more about that. As always, you're the jury. Let us hear your comments. It's very important to us because you may tell us something or ask us a question or something that might be necessary to move it along a little bit. Leave us a comment, and thank you very much for watching.